Jiyoung, how are you? Good to see you.
Yes.
So we're just gonna roll right into this. And
Okay.
before we get into
Okay.
the retail media and commerce,
Yes.
I want to ask you. So earlier this year, you took on a new role at GroupM.
Yes.
You're now the chief operating officer.
Yes.
What's been the biggest shift in your day to day since then?
I think it's just the scale of it. So obviously, before it was very similar in terms of the transformation journey we've been on, and the integration of platform, basically capabilities that are built around platforms, the development of platform-based media. I think even based on the conversation before, it's very obvious that's becoming the pervasive form. So it's just scaling it out and creating an environment where we can have both experts who can be masters of their craft, but ensuring there's integration throughout all of GroupM.
Continuing along that line, there's lots of different examples of how holding companies are approaching the commerce opportunity. Some have spun out entirely new divisions like IBG and Kinesso, or OMD and Omnicom Commerce. Some are acquiring technology to bridge some of the gaps between the various retail providers and your planning and buying solutions. What's driving GroupM's approach to the commerce opportunity?
So we're very consistent. For folks who have followed us for a few years, we tend to be the church of responsibility. And when it comes to commerce, we've taken the position that we have to be responsible for every dollar and all dollars, not just the commerce dollars, not just the brand dollars, not just the performance dollars. And primarily because with the growth of insert, in brackets, it's not like incremental money is being, minted, right? It's all, the pot is exactly the same, but the money just happens to be moving around. So somebody needs to always steward that every dollar is going to the right place. And integration has been kind of the primary focus in that theme.
Well, I'm so glad you started talking about money because now we can go further down that path.
My favorite topic.
You know, marketers are definitely being more intentional about their spending. You just said it's not like there's net new money. So where is the money from retail media networks coming from? Like Parbs kind of highlighted, is it coming from the brand? Is it coming from the shopper marketing piece? Is it coming from trade? Is it coming from linear TV? Like where is the retail media money coming from? Or is it just falling from the sky?
Yeah, it's definitely not falling from the sky. I've been waiting for that. Hasn't happened. It is a free for all right now. The answer is all of the above, right? And as retail media matures, brands are looking everywhere. So there's a lot of like pressure between kind of even brand dollars. You said linear, like if you guys all went through the upfront process this year, there was not a single major partner that did not talk about retail data, right? So worlds are not just colliding, it's everything. Everything's pretty much blending. Marcus actually said it himself, right? Non-endemic, these are keywords, right? Like non-endemic and use of data, retail data for brand, right? So there's a bit of a Hunger Games in the dollars happening right now. It's not coming from one specific place. Everything is being looked at.
Are there specific channels that are facing more pressure than others, though?
Any channel that has traditionally been harder to attribute, right? So we have been in the game for a really long time, for example. How we've also, if you're not doing it yet, or your agency's not doing it yet, they should. Has gotten faster. It should be updating about at a monthly cadence, right? Now, if those things have not happened, whatever channels are not being measured is going to lose. But there's one thing we haven't really looked at really carefully, and it's coming to the forefront with retail media. How is paid incremental to organic is something that we're not looking at very carefully. So when we talk about for example, one of the things that we have to start regularly including is how our non-paid media kind of channels driving contribution.
And what do you consider non-paid? Is that social? Is that
Content,
content?
yeah, social, and honestly, how noisy your fans are, right? Your brand fans are, yeah.
So you're looking at evaluating all of the sort of halo effect activity that's created from your campaigns and trying to measure that from an incremental basis.
Exactly.
You know, in our prep call, you talked about the pressure on branded campaigns in particular, right? Because traditionally upper funnel campaigns are not measured as much. And you also talked about kind of the campaigns that drive emotions. And you know, my question is, if campaigns that can't be quantified are optimized out of the media plan in favor of campaigns that can be measured and drive that incrementality, like what does advertising look like? Is it all, I mean, is it all just weird robots? Is it all just hyper targeted? Like, what about things that surprise and delight a consumer, but maybe can't be measured in that same way?
So I love that question. So it's twofold. I'm going to start with, like, there's a lot of CPGs and there are a lot of categories where the original kind of magic and allure of retail media, lighting up kind of the point of sale where we couldn't reach a consumer before, that sounded really magical, right? But there's a lot of categories and there are a lot of products where if you're trying to get them at that moment in time, you're already too late, right? Think about you as a consumer. You go to a drugstore, like a CVS, right? You are not going to change your mind about something you plan to buy
No.
once you're in the store, right?
No.
You won't.
I'm not going to change my mind, but I would use Sephora as an example. So I go to Sephora and I need XYZ, and I didn't intend to buy something. Let's say I need some foundation from Sephora. I go to Sephora, I get my foundation, but then I'm at the register. Wow, that was interesting.
They don't like
I'm
foundation.
I'm at the register, and they have the little kiosks, and there's all the little things that I was literally not thinking about it, but I wind up with my foundation and 5 other things. How do you then measure, like, is that an in-store measurement, or is that, how do you measure that?
That's a really great question. That's an exposure, right? The amount of, and it's something that CPGs and retailers have known forever, right? We fight for the amount of shelf space we get. We fight for how prominent it is. These are all things that we know, classically have always known, influences consumer decisions. However, going back to your brand point, there's a lot of work that needs to happen before you even step into that store in order to influence somebody to consider me, think of me, right? Am I relevant? I think that's why, for example, influencer is such a huge, huge area. We think of it as as more of a social platform, but it's the ultimate expression of people like me. It's the most intimate expression of micro advertising. And there's a reason why it's micro influencers that tend to be the most effective at driving sales.
So it's so interesting because later today we have Snap, they're part of this retail media conversation. And I just, in my prep call with them, I was like, wait, what? You have a retail media play? And they consider themselves one of the original kind of retail shopping platforms because people are influencing each other in that way. The question then would become, how do you measure that? How does that fit into your incrementality equation? How does that fit into the retail media equation?
So I love that you asked that. So that's why I think it's incredibly important to build data, tech, and tools. And I'm going to put more emphasis on the tech and tool part, more so than the data. Sorry, Marcus. On bringing it all together. So in kind of that, we just talked about, for example, MMM, right? And the ability to measure the impact across paid, owned, and earned, and across brand, performance, commerce, et cetera, right? We've been, I think we announced it, I want to say last fall. So we've been building kind of commerce capabilities or retail media capabilities into our core planning tool. So where we are today, it's democratizing that habit of looking at every dollar within the same planning tools that every planner uses at GroupM, right?
So that's not on that. That's like Parbs and Amy just talked about accessing the data through Trade Desk. At GroupM, you're saying yes, and we want to access it through the Trade Desk, but we also want it in our own planning tools.
Right. So those curves then have to feed into something in order to make it actionable. Otherwise, you're just looking at a decorative report, right? That makes you feel good, and then you manually do something with it. When you have an organization of 7,000 plus people, in order to make that happen every single time with every single dollar, that data has to go into something that they consume every day. So that we think is going to be key to looking at the difference and making sure channels that are actually impacting kind of that sale and that influence is being given the appropriate credit.
So tools and tactics. That's interesting. You're choosing, so GroupM is choosing to, again, partner with others, but have the capability in-house to kind of measure channel by channel by channel to get back to that incrementality.
Exactly. And it can't just be like experts who do this. Everybody has to know this because, again, going back to decisions that we make in retail media impact everything else, and decisions we make in brand media impact everything else. These things are connected. So it can't be like only this group does it. Everybody has to do it.
Does that mean you don't have commerce or retail specialists anymore?
Of course we do. Because once you kind of understand the role of blah, then somebody has to deliver in a way that was faithful to the intent to begin with. We lived through years of like we would present the most magical plans to clients, and then when we translate it to like a little manager, a baby manager, to activate, all hell breaks loose, right? Like the audiences get reinterpreted, the campaign gets rebuilt. So this is really about preserving that fidelity from strategic kind of vision all the way to tactical execution.
I love that you're being so transparent about how messy it was or how messy it can be, because I think part of the challenge of we have these conversations on stage and everyone's like, yes, we will integrate the data instantly, but you're like, we integrate it at this level, but when it comes to hands-on keys, how does it actually get done? I do think that was part of the Trade Desk and the CMX conversation, right? Is making it so that the traders can actually trade. Maybe my last question for you, and I've asked everyone this, is a lot of people say the benefits of using data is personalization and relevance. And yes, I want more relevant ads. I don't know that I always want personalization though, but are there any other benefits that you're seeing from a consumer perspective in terms of all of this data kind of flooding the market? No.
Not yet, sorry. So I think relevance is still a really big deal, but we conflate relevance with personalization. Meaning you can have a personal experience, but delivered in the wrong time, it's not relevant to you, right? I can know a lot of things about you, and still you may not be in the right mindset for. So a lot of things have to come together. And to be totally honest, it's the thing that we forget. It's the consistency and the persistence of an experience that builds brands and drives sales, right? So kind of a short burst of really personalized and micro-targeted work is not going to move the needle as much as a very consistent kind of experience that you've kind of come to trust with a brand or a product, right? The other part of it is that you brought up the CFO, magical words. I live and die by our CFO. A lot of times that you hear the term a lot. Like I think our industry has yet to justify the cost, right, of these things. The incremental costs of data, personalization, even what we define, and I think this needs a new definition, high impact units, right? Is that really heads and above, shoulders in terms of like advertising annoyance to consumers?
It's
Probably not.
It's not.
Right? So
highly annoying impact is probably what we should call it. Which there's again we're in the ad business and ads are part of the mix, but again I think it's the right time, the right place. I'm not against advertising, I'm against interruptive advertising. And so it sounds like what you're saying is you can use this data to create consistent experiences that then sort of increase the brand impact and then actually drive a sale.
Right. And we see it all the time. I think, especially in the early days of our social platforms, you would see, for example, skippable versus non-skippable. It still shows up. Try it. If you make ads skippable, your ad recall will go down with younger audiences, no question, because if they have a chance to
Skip it.
done, right? However, so ad recall goes up if it's not skippable. Guess what goes down sometimes? Brand love, right? So this is the thing that we have to solve. First, we have to make the formats and the experience relevant to a consumer. We have to be consistent with the way we show up, and then tie it to all the sorcery we have with retail media.
I love that. We're going to end on that because I love that you called it sorcery. That is my new descriptor for retail media sorcery. Thank you so much, Ji Young.
Thank you, Tanika.